We are in a heat advisory this week. It's going to be in the upper 90s and in the low 100s. So I'm just doing a few things this morning before it gets any hotter. When I got up this morning, it was already 86 degrees. It has been in the 80s at night. So a lot of people think that Kansas doesn't get that hot, but truly we do. I washed the sheet that goes over my husband's recliner. I also have one on my recliner. It just keeps us a little bit cooler in the house during these temperatures. And it also keeps us from sitting down and maybe being sweaty and getting it on our furniture. This is an old hack that I learned a long time ago from my Depression era parents, and it really does make you a little bit cooler. The next thing that I did on my to-do list was do about our 5 minutes worth of dishes by hand. We had maybe 6 dishes in there with a few pieces of silverware that I didn't get done yesterday. And since I do it by hand, I like to do it first thing in the morning so that it doesn't overheat me. I like to check on my plants one time a day, and I water them either in the mornings or in the late evenings. We have some flowers blooming here by the house. We have some squash plants, some broccoli, onions. Our morning glories are blooming. I have some pepper plants with a lot of blooms on there. I also have some tomatoes growing, some corn, and of course, my Swiss chard and my celery is still going. These have been going for several winters now, all year long. I bring them in the house, and we have fresh vegetables all winter and all spring and all fall. You know, sharing my life on this channel has been interesting for me with the feedback that I get. I am just an ordinary farm girl living here in Kansas. I don't do anything fancy. I don't do anything extravagant. In fact, I think my life is kind of dull, but I like it that way. I like it with no conflict and no confrontation and nothing like that on a day to day basis. When I envisioned retirement, I envisioned it to be peaceful. I envisioned my life to have all that I needed, but not be overwhelmed by the way that my life had always been. Working full time, working 2 to 3 jobs, raising 6 kids, it was a lot. And I really wanted to take a step back and just relax and enjoy the moment. And learning to do that was tough, but I can tell you it is so rewarding. And for me, building my income for my savings beyond the point that I needed to have a certain amount just was not worth continuing with that lifestyle. I really desired the leisure part of freedom, the leisure part of getting up without an alarm, having some garden plants going, doing the things that need to be done around here, but not an overwhelming amount of things. That's why when you see me garden or I've tried my hand at a few simple canning things, I do them the easiest way possible because I don't want to add work and stress to my retired life. My desire for freedom became stronger than my desire to be able to buy more things. And when your mind opens up to this relaxed way of thinking, it's surprising the things that you learn and that you see that you never saw before because you just weren't thinking about that. You were thinking about the task at hand and you were moving on to the next thing. One of the things that I have learned is this is like a 16-ounce cup, and a Keurig will fill this. A lot of times they tell you a Keurig will fill like 8 ounces. No, I do 16. And this right here is the same amount as this right here. And maybe you've seen some of those videos where they show you like the small, medium, and large at some of those coffee shops is really almost the same amount. And I can tell you it is because this I will make this because it fits under my Keurig. And when I pour it in, it fills it up clear to here. That is huge. So when you're paying for the next level, you're only paying for this much more, another sip or two. That's it. And when I started looking at how to save money so that I could continue my leisurely type of life, I started looking at all of those things. And it's so eye-opening to see that some of these things I was fooled with for the longest time. For me, discipline in my spending became such a motivator to have the life that I wanted. I didn't see it as me not being able to buy the things I wanted. I saw it as it became clearer, easier, and more motivated for me to do the things that I wanted to do that would get me to my end goal. I had more time for enjoying experiences now. I no longer needed all the stuff. And when we don't have time, we replace that with buying stuff a lot of times to try to make the time we do have enjoyable. But when you have more time, you realize that stuff isn't really what you want. It's the experiences versus the things that we were purchasing, and we substitute that with our employment. So that was a real eye opener to me. I also used discipline in my spending choices. And as I did that, it got easier when we have a vision of what we want. Even having a taste of freedom, like having a vacation or a staycation or a long weekend, sometimes that gives us a vision into what will really make us happy and what we really want. And sometimes that really helps us get motivated to then meet our goals of getting debt free or spending less money in areas that just didn't matter. And for me, that was always true. When I had a vacation, I was already planning the second vacation on the way home from the first. I was planning the next spring break with my kids. I was planning things for the summer with my kids because those were the things that really mattered. It wasn't buying things that I didn't need or having too many clothes or too many pretties for my house. Those weren't the things that really mattered, but we substitute those things for not having freedom to try to make ourselves happier. So once I did that proposed retirement budget and practiced living on it and I met my goal, I realized that working longer really wasn't serving me reaching any further goal. All it was doing was making things harder on me. And all retirement years are not the same. I can already tell you from the time that I retired almost 3 years ago to now, I've already declined. And for many people, that's not true if they have been in great shape or they're a jogger or they've done fitness. But for me, I've had a lot of falls over my life. And over that time, those things took a toll on my body. And so once I started reaching this age and I had herniated discs and I had degenerative disc disease and I had arthritis in my spine and all of these things, it started taking a toll, and it still takes a toll on me. And I can see that I was even in better shape before than I am now. Sometimes I was in better shape last year than I am now. And I don't want to put off being able to do things that I enjoy by working longer just to build that savings. So that's where that came from. I started realizing that being free was more important than building a larger nest egg when I could live on what I had already saved. The spending gap between what you have and what you spend is the most important. It's not how much you make. Yes, you need to have money and you need to be able to save, but that gap in there is what is the most important. That's what gives you choices. That's what gives you flexibility. And watching that amount grow is what motivates you to do more of the same. So if you are thinking that you can't retire or you can't take a break or you can't quit your job while you look for one that's better or one you enjoy more, look at that gap, because that gap is usually where we're spending on the things instead of on the experiences or putting back the money for our freedom. You never want your spending to exceed your earnings. And that's the biggest trick. So even if you make $1,200 a month and you can live on 800, you're putting back 400 a month, where maybe somebody that's making 2,500 a month is spending 2,800 a month, and they're going in the hole every month by $300. That is the true trick. But so many of us leave our own finances to chance. We're going to work, we're buying the things, we're doing our due diligence at work and bringing home a paycheck, and we feel like that's all we can do. But really, a lot of times we can do more. It's that overwhelm and that busy schedule that keeps us from actually making a good plan and being able to stick to it. And that's what motivated me to get myself in order so that I would be able to have this leisurely life. Now, am I laying on a beach by the ocean with an umbrella and a little drink? No, I'm not. I do travel when the occasion is available to me and when my finances tell me that I can afford to do that. And then I travel frugally, and you've shared in some of those experiences with me, and they were just as meaningful as me going and spending a lot of money on a very expensive resort by the beach. So leisure can mean different things. It can mean a relaxed, stress-free life, which is what I try to show you on this channel, or it can be a high financed, fancy life with all the bells and whistles. So you have to decide for yourself, is it worth it to work longer to get the bells and whistles? A lot of people will say, yes, I'm not retiring and not having the money I want to spend on everything I absolutely want. But do they have that right now? No. And they're spending a lot of times 40, 50 years working and still not having that right now. So those years of freedom can look just as rewarding if you modify your definition of what retirement looks like, of what leisure looks like, of what spending money for needs looks like. And that's what I'm here to show you on this channel. And I hope that I motivate you to maybe look at things a little bit differently, because truly this makes your life so much easier. You might even realize that you love this way of life more than the way that you were living before, where it is simpler, less stressful, less costly, and more security. And that sometimes comes without all of the expensive things, but a lot more freedom. So don't discount the simpler life with everything that you need. Sometimes when we're working, we don't even feel like we can afford everything we need. And that's because we haven't stopped and taken a look at where our money is really going. And is it costing us more for things that we're using just to make ourselves get through this time of our life? And then when you get to be my age, you look back and say, wow, I wasted a lot of money. I could have done this sooner. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give me a thumbs up, give me a hype. I would love to hear your feedback in the comments below, and I hope you have a great week.